Fathers podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. If you are going through the family law court process, particularly as a father, then this podcast may be relevant to what you may experience. Some things we discuss in these episodes may be triggering, and if you suffer from any form of mental health related conditions or subject to domestic or family violence and need any assistance, then please call 1-800-RESPECT in Lifeline. The views and experiences discussed by people on our show are not necessarily the views and opinions of Broken Fathers podcast or their guest speakers. We strongly advise you seek your own independent legal and professional advice, as the Broken Fathers podcast will not be liable, answerable, or accountable for any loss or damage or litigation resulting from discussions on our platform. Right, this podcast is now in session. Hold on, guys. The judge is running late to court. So whilst we wait, I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge our platinum sponsor, Straight Up Construction. At Straight Up Construction, they take pride in delivering high-end work across every trade. From new builds to renovations, no job is too big or too small. Director Luke Miller and his dedicated team tackle every project with integrity, hard work, honesty, and a commitment to delivering superior quality results every time. Straight Up Construction is built on the belief that strong foundations matter just as much in the bones of a home as they do in the heart of one. Families should stand strong, and every loving parent should maintain their right to be a part of their children's lives. Straight Up Construction believes that in true Aussie spirit, everyone deserves a fair go. That's why we're proud to have Straight Up Construction as our platinum sponsor. With their support, we continue to produce the Broken Fathers podcast and shine a light on the struggles of men who have been let down by the system. Good morning, listeners and viewers, and welcome back to the Broken Fathers podcast, Australia's first and only podcast dedicated to addressing family court issues from the perspective of fathers. I'm your host, Percy. Now, before I introduce my next guest, just a reminder, the link for my podcast merchandise is in our bio on Insta, Facebook, TikTok, or just go straight to fkvx.au. Now, today's guest has lived through a journey that few people could ever imagine. For nearly 2 decades, he worked within Australia's law enforcement and criminal justice system in management roles, building a career dedicated to upholding the law and serving the community. By all accounts, he was a respected professional, a law-abiding citizen, and a devoted father. But behind the scenes, his personal life was beginning to unravel. What followed was a series of events that would completely change the course of his life. He found himself navigating a bitter family court battle, prolonged separation from his children, serious mental health struggles, multiple suicide attempts, and extended periods in psychiatric care. He experienced firsthand what it felt like to move from working within the justice system to being subjected to it. His life eventually spiraled to the point where he faced criminal charges, imprisonment, and the loss of everything he had worked so hard to build. Yet despite hitting rock bottom, he survived, he rebuilt, and today he joins us to share his experiences, his lessons, and his perspective on family court, mental health, fatherhood, resilience, and what it truly means to start again from nothing. This is a story of loss, survival, accountability, and rebuilding a life when everything appears lost. Please welcome today's guest, Peter Dane. Welcome, mate.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks for having me.
Mate, thanks for coming on. Like all my guests, I want to acknowledge that you've taken time out of your day, money out of your pocket to travel up here from another state. I appreciate that, and I know my guests will do, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Before we crack on to the family court, which I call a circus, I think it's important to know where my guest is from. So where was Pete born, and what was life like growing up for Pete?
So thanks, Jared. So born in Westmead, New South Wales, obviously New South Wales, born and bred. Spent all of my life living in New South Wales, except for probably 2 years. I spent up in Queensland in my younger years, but otherwise pretty much New South Wales through and through.
Yep. We spoke offline. You're a doggy supporter?
Doggy supporter, yep. Supported them since I was a young kid.
Nice. What was schooling like?
Schooling, obviously finished, went up through to year 10, then did a trade. Spent a bit of time in the trade, the mechanical trade, and then converted over to law enforcement and spent, as you said, nearly 20 years in there.
Mate, siblings?
None. I'm the only child. I've got stepbrothers and sisters from my father's side.
So your mum and dad split?
When I was young.
When you were young?
Yeah, I was probably 4 or 5.
Can you remember much of that? Was it amicable or?
Not really. No,
yeah.
it wasn't. I would say it's not. Mum left my father. they didn't obviously see eye to eye there. But, I spent minimal time with my father during my formative years. But I guess my relationship rebuilt with him probably from about 17, 18 I was.
Yep.
We still maintain contact. He lives in Queensland.
Yep.
So, we see each other, but my mother's obviously passed away. She passed away in 2017 to cancer.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And I was extremely close to mum.
Yep.
Obviously, very, very strong relationship with my mother. And I get on very well with my dad. And my dad's getting older now. I mean, he's pushing. Actually, he is 83.
Oh,
so
wow.
he's he's going well for his age, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But like anything in life, you never know when things can change.
Yeah. So, mate, you finished school, and then where'd you go to from there?
So, from school.
Yep.
So finished school, did my mechanical apprenticeship.
Yep.
Did my 4-year apprenticeship there. Was a qualified tradesman. Spent a number of years in that trade, and then converted over to law enforcement. There wasn't enough money in the mechanical trade back then, and a friend of mine actually got me in to go in the criminal justice system.
Yep.
So I thought, I'll go over and give it a go, and I did that, and I really enjoyed it. And
so how old were you then? About 23 or something when you was?
Yeah, it would have
24?
been, what year was that? It would have been 2002. So you're 21.
21, yep. So 21, you joined corrections?
Attorney General's Department.
Okay, yep. So what's that?
So that was working for the courts.
Okay, yep, okay. And how long did you do that for?
Probably 2 years.
Yep. And what were some of your roles and responsibilities in that role?
So basically working alongside the sheriff officers and things like that in the district court.
Yep.
So New South Wales district court system. So I did that for a couple of years. Then went over and worked in the transit, basically like the transit police for a period of 6.5 years.
Yeah, well.
And then from there went over at corrective services.
Yeah, okay.
And, spent 12 and a half years in there.
What prison were you at there when you did corrections?
I wasn't in the prison. I was actually in parole. So I was dealing with the parole unit.
Oh, okay. So how does that work? 'Cause I don't know how it works.
So we manage offenders that
that on parole.
Parole, court-based orders and things like that.
Yeah,
I was a manager in that position.
Yep.
Worked my way up. Was in a special unit within that department as well for a while that managed the highest risk offenders in the state. So it was an eye opener having spent that long in there. It was I really enjoyed the role. Very challenging. Took its toll at times, as most jobs do. It was something that I took great pride in, and I was, I consider myself very firm and fair. And as I said, I had worked my way up from entry level coming in to middle management type of position.
Yeah, nice, mate. So I guess somewhere along this journey, you meet your partner at some point during this journey. Your first.
Yeah, my first. So obviously my ex-wife now, but
yep.
I met my ex-partner, who obviously became my wife back in. We were very young.
Because before we start, you just so people don't get lost. You've got two ex-partners. Yep.
Yeah. I've only been in 3 serious relationships.
Yep.
My now ex-wife, who I was with in total duration for 18 and a half years.
Yep.
We were together since I was 17. She was 16.
Wow.
My then ex, we were together about two years after I separated from my ex-wife.
Yep.
And obviously my current wife, who I've been with for just over 6 years.
Okay. All right. Sorry, mate. Back to the So you met your first wife?
Yeah, we were
back in high school, or what? Just after? Yeah.
It was. Yeah. So I was an apprentice at the time. An apprentice. I think I was second year.
Yep.
For memory. She had just finished up school. I think she was finished up at year 11 or something like that. We're going back a long time ago now. And obviously, we kicked it off at a young age. And yeah, we had, I guess, like most couples, you want to eventually have children and get married and so on. So we did. We had, back then, a lot of problems. My ex-wife had a lot of problems falling pregnant. Sorry, not falling pregnant. Falling pregnant was easy, but actually we had a lot of miscarriages. So she wasn't able to kind of get past that first trimester. Which took, obviously a lot of toll on both of us, but obviously particularly her because she had to go through the mental side and physical side. And I was just going through the physical side of it and being by her side. So I had about 8 miscarriages, I think, from memory. Wow. And then when we finally got past the first trimester, I think, say on pregnancy 9, we then had a stillborn. So our first one at 23 and a half weeks gestation. So, yeah, that took a massive toll, and that was 2003 from memory, I think. 2003. And, our firstborn, 2004.
That would have been a big, relief or big, what's the word? Blessing, I guess. Blessing.
Yeah,
blessing.
You could certainly say that. So it was, phenomenal.
Boy, girl?
Boy, yep. So we've got 3 children together.
Yep.
2 boys, the 2 oldest ones are boys and the youngest one's girl.
Yep.
And they're, this is now 21 going on 22, 20 going on 21, and my daughter a couple of months ago turned 17. So,
was there any dramas or any miscarriages after you had your first son?
There was so the first 2, no. The 2 boys back to back,
and then
they're 12. They're exactly 12 months and 3 weeks apart. And then there was 1 miscarriage between the second boy and then my daughter. Yeah, we actually weren't going to have the third one because it was just enough. We were grateful to obviously have 1, let alone 2 at that stage. But then we really wanted to try and go for a girl, and we got that, and that was we're very blessed with what we have. So considering we could have had no children, to ending up with 3 healthy children is
got to find the positive and the negative.
Like you said, it's a blessing.
If you don't mind me asking, I always ask all the fellas, did you watch your ex-partner give birth to your son the first time?
I did. So because of the medical issues that obviously transpired with all the miscarriages that she had, that they decided to do cesarean sections on all 3 of them. So I was in the surgical ward theatre when all 3 were delivered.
Yep.
So they were obviously planned in terms of when they were going. They weren't emergency Caesars. They were planned Caesars, but because of the medical issues, they said it was too risky to go natural for her and the baby. So I was present in all 3, which.
And how was that feeling first time?
Fantastic. Bawled my eyes out. Yeah. I think we both did. Very, very, it was a beautiful feeling. Something that just,
like
I cherish.
Hit with a semi-truck full of emotions, eh?
Absolutely. I never thought we'd have children just because of all the issues that we went through, and despite all the testing that they couldn't find any reason. So there was no medical reasons for it. They just for whatever reason, it was one of those things. Just as I said, you couldn't get past the first trimester, and then when we did finally get past that first trimester, we ended up with having a daughter that we, obviously because she went over 20 weeks gestation, and when you deliver, you've actually got to bury them. So you had to go through the full funeral and that as well. So it was very
heavy,
horrendous, traumatic experience. It's and I took my hat off, and I still do. Despite our differences, to my ex-wife. And she stayed very strong through that period. And I know how bad it was for myself. I can only imagine how it was for her going through the emotional side and the physical side. Yeah. So it was tough days back then, and it still no doubt traumatizes us, I guess, to some degree.
Were you, given everything that you both had been through, were you scared to have a second one, knowing that we could be, face the same hurdles we did the first time?
Look, getting after we got to that ninth pregnancy of a daughter was where we had a stillborn.
Hey guys, just a quick shout out to our gold sponsors. MCH Industries are a mining maintenance specialist company supplying solutions to the coal mining industry in the Bowen Basin and regional New South Wales. They supply superintendents, supervisors, leading hands, diesel fitters, tyre fitters, auto electricians, HV electricians, and trade assistants to assist. The mining one-stop shop for mechanical trades. MCH Industries are always looking for good blokes to jump on the team, so check out their Instagram for more details. And are you looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? There's only one name that's been leading the way for over 123 years, Ray White. Ray White isn't just another real estate brand. It's a family business built on ambition, trust, and leadership. Today, it stands as the largest real estate group in Australasia, connecting people with homes and investments across the country. Whether you're a first-time buyer, a seasoned investor, or looking for that perfect home, Ray White is committed to delivering authentic, local expertise. Because real estate isn't just about properties, it's about people, communities, and futures. And when it comes to trusted leadership, meet Alex Ilyan, an ex-Army veteran turned dedicated real estate agent. Alex knows what it means to serve, to strategize, and to get the job done. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or just have questions, Alex is here to guide you every step of the way, servicing the Geelong, Bellarine, and Surf Coast areas. Ray White, the name you can trust in real estate.
Yeah, so it was tough. Look, after that we weren't going to even try for another one, but hell bent that we did, and it was shaky ground. But even that pregnancy, I still remember it wasn't smooth sailing. I mean, as I said, I think she had, with the medical reasons, they had what they call weak cervix, and therefore when the pregnancy got so far in, I'm no doctor, but from a perspective, as what I got explained to me is that as the baby gets heavier, the cervix, because they're weakened, they shorten, they start to open, they then go into premature labour. So they had to. She would go through the high risk unit pretty much every week. She would go to a clinic and get monitored both via ultrasounds and the high risk doctors and so like that. And it got to a certain point where they would monitor it. Once they saw the cervix start shortening, they then put a cervical stitch in, and then she was bedridden. I remember with my oldest one, 6-7 weeks. She was in hospital for
Wow.
before. So, and look, they let her go to about 37 weeks gestation, and they delivered with all three of them.
Yeah. I know we haven't got to it yet. 'Cause I'm sure at some point there was fractures in the relationship. But do you think the miscarriages, and I'm jumping the gun here, took a toll obviously on both of you, but on the strain of the relationship maybe?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, psychologically, how couldn't it? It would have to. So there is no doubt that that trauma that we went through played a toll, and I think the big thing, I guess, and I've had plenty of time to reflect on where things probably went wrong. I mean, we were obviously quite young when we got together, and I think we just grew apart. That's how I believe. I mean, obviously, like any relationship, you have your ups and downs and things like that. But through the entire way through it, until we separated, there was no domestic violence whatsoever.
Yeah.
From a physical perspective, it was you have your fights and your arguments. Your verbal fights and arguments I'm talking about, and disagreements and so on. But you kind of work through them and you get by, and just towards the back end we just didn't see eye to eye, and got to a point, I know from my perspective, where I knew things were bad because I've been very sporty all my life, particularly rugby league scene and things like that, and got to the back end there, Jared, where I love to be able to rush home to get to my kids, to see them in bed before I got back from footy training, and see them in bed, see them before they went to bed. You know what I mean? And towards the back end of that relationship, I just chose to stay. I'd stay back longer at training. I'd go to the pub with the boys for a beer and things like that, which was out of character for me. just so I didn't have to face.
Mm.
I spent less time with her basically, which then it obviously impacts on the children. So I knew then it's time.
Yeah, you got to call it.
Mm.
So you had your two boys and your daughter,
Yep.
and then sort of how far later on did the relationship come to an end after you had your daughter?
So the relationship. So my daughter was born in 2009, and the relationship didn't end until December December 2016.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's just still together a while.
Yeah, another 7 years. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys obviously come to an end. Was it amicable, smooth sailing? Did you end up in court?
Definitely not amicable. So the court scene started the following year in 2017. So basically, when it separated, I'm the one that called it. Enough was enough from my perspective. I was just not happy. I could see it was starting to affect the children as well. And I knew my ex-wife wasn't happy either, to be honest. I think like a lot of people, you probably stay in the relationship for the sake of the children. I certainly did, and I'm sure that if she was asked, she would say the same thing. So it was just time to go, and I made that cut. And having done that, then we had to. So I moved out of the family home and left her with the children there. And then it was about trying to work out, custody arrangements, things like that. And that's when obviously family court got involved because it just wasn't going to be an amicable situation. It wasn't an agreement. So things kicked off around about in the year 2017.
Okay. Well, a real quick one question I think I've never asked, because I've never been married before. But even if everything was smooth sailing and you guys want to go your own way, you would still have to go to court anyway because you're married. You get a file for the divorce, wait 12 months. So regardless, let's just say it was all smooth sailing. People that are married have to go to court anyway to finalise the divorce. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet.
So that's correct. So when you divorce, you've got to be separated. I'm not sure what other states' laws are, but New South Wales is 12 months.
12 months, yeah.
So I couldn't file for divorce until I think it was roughly January 2018. And that's when you go through property settlements and so you do divorce, and then they go through the breakdown of what the assets are going to be and finances and so on. So, but family court had kicked off before that because of trying to access the children. Whether I was, look, I never wanted to try and take the kids away from my ex-wife. She's their mother. She, deserves to be in their life like I deserve to be in their life. I just wanted equal share. That's all I was after. So,
all right. So we'll slow it down here. Family court, fighting over custody of the kids. What's some of the hurdles you face here?
Look, as most of your viewers can relate in yourself, it's the courts. The perception for the court's very one-sided. The financial aspect's a huge one because you've got to have the money to be able to run a claim, to be able to get solicitors involved and things like that. It drags out. Everything you do there, nothing happens quickly. It takes forever and a day. The allegations then when you get there that can be unproven. Yeah. At that stage, there was no police involvement. There was nothing at that stage. But allegations kept not about me being violent, but certainly about my mental health. My mental health was constantly brought up in the family court system. And what I tried to articulate and explain to the judge in the family court system was my mental health is deteriorating because I'm not seeing my children.
Exactly.
The ongoing conflict with my ex-wife, through the separation, trying to work out, obviously I can understand it's a huge life-changing event for both parties and we're trying to both adapt to the situation. Also, like the kids being used as pawns, getting told that, You know, I don't love my children. You know, I don't care for my kids. Which was all just complete bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, they were my world.
Because how old were your kids around this time? Maybe 9 or something?
Yeah, so what's so 2017? The youngest was say 7.
Yep.
10 and 11.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so 11, 10,
Yeah.
and 7. So still not babies, but not old either. And they certainly, you know, it's through those formative years. You know what I mean? Like they wanted, all the kids wanted was to see both parents. You know, they kind of didn't get what separation meant and divorce meant and things like that. It was just they wanted to be able to have a positive relationship with both parents, and that's all you can ask for. That they're happy and they're number one. But things got messy with the family court system as well. Once I got into a new relationship, which is now we'll refer to that as my ex partner, the one after my ex-wife. So I was separated for about 12 months, 11 to 12 months before I finally moved on to another relationship.
I might jump the gun here because this is a common behaviour I see, and I'm jumping to conclusion here. As when you started seeing someone else, is that when she made your life hell seeing the kids?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is every guest I get on, it's the same thing.
It went like beyond a joke. Like I then got accused that I was having an affair, you know, whilst I was in the relationship, in the marriage with my ex-wife, with this particular person. It was complete rubbish. It was not the case. I was clearly separated from my ex-wife before I moved on. And as I said, for about 11 to 12 months beforehand. So, but yeah, just, I don't know what it was. I think, well, she was looking for answers and reasons why, that she could blame on me why I left. You know, she couldn't believe or get through her head that I just left because enough was enough. Tried to say, oh, well, if a bloke's going to go, there's got to be, he's not going to leave a relationship unless there's someone else on the scene, which is ridiculous. I couldn't take it anymore.
Fizzled out.
Completely did.
How did you meet your ex partner after your wife? So your next partner, if that makes sense.
So that was through work.
Yep.
So through my work at the time, and she was also going through a separation with her ex-husband.
Yep.
At that stage. So I guess.
Do you feel you're trauma bonding or what's
confided?
Yeah.
Confided. Yeah. That's what we were doing. That's exactly what I believe. How things. Obviously, we were working together. I think she'd only been there for a couple of years in the department at that stage, and yeah, you know, I guess working within my team and things like that, and so kind of I got to know her a lot better, and yeah, we were bouncing off things with each other and probably like we said, confiding, and then yeah, just obviously things kicked off. One thing went to another, and you know, from my point, it was a bad move. I wish I could turn back the clock, I guess, in so many areas, but certainly in that regard, that you know, hindsight's a lovely thing, and it was never a good thing getting into a relationship with someone I work with. Because as we'll talk about, you know, moving forward, it created a lot of animosity and a lot of dramas, especially when that relationship breaks down.
So how long did the family court still go on for whilst you were with your next partner?
5 years.
5 years. Oh, wow.
2017. It didn't finish until 2022.
I mean, I'll take my head off to you. I lasted 3 years and I was broken.
Yep.
3 years, gone. Tap. Mentally drained, physically drained, gone, broken.
Yeah. It's as you know, you've lived it as well, Jared. It's a horrendous system, and the costs involved. I mean, I've spent in total legal bills, you know, with the family court, and we'll get to the criminal side of it in due course. Will be $250,000, best part of it. So nearly 250,000, I reckon I've spent.
And, you know, for those that have been through it will understand what I'm about to say. Those who may be about to go through it, Like I've got a mate filed 2019. It's 2026, still going. Like, what does that tell you about the system? Like, you know what I mean? It's not a system, but when he updates me, like, oh, I get the shivers because it just reminds me the constant legal correspondence, the affidavits, the emails, go do another course, and you just like, oh, like as even though my journey's over, like I just that revolving door of just never ending, it just taxes you.
It does.
taxes
It
you.
does. And look, being a male, we're just behind the eight ball to start with.
That's what
We
my
just
lawyer said.
honestly, we you and I and many of your followers and that we've all lived it, and it's just they try to say it's an impartial and system and fair system and that it's not. It's completely broken. It's completely one sided, and everyone that I've spoken to, any of my friends and that have been through it, everyone says the same thing. No one has positive thing to say about it, saying that they got a fair outcome. Everyone said that it's gone the other side every single time, and what I keep saying, because I'm a massive advocate for mental health, for men's mental health, and I have been for many years because of my own, particularly with my own battles and that, and you've only got to look at, and I'm sure you certainly know, the high suicide rates that we have in this country, particularly for males. It's just outrageous.
Yeah, if anyone's watching now, if you don't know who Senator Tyrone Whitten is, he's a senator in Western Australia for One Nation Party, but I've been in touch with him. If you don't know, he's the one that asked Penny Wong, if there's an office for women in this country, why there's an office for men. But he is, in my opinion, a true leader for this country. He's a big advocate for males, for fathers' rights, and if anyone's watching, you definitely got to get behind him. But being June, as we are now, Mental Health Month, it's I don't try and create a gender divide on my podcast, but when it comes to male suicide rates, it doesn't get as much publicity and gets swept under the carpet, compared to females. So, but sorry, mate, you carry on.
Yeah, it's just there's not the same amount of services.
No, that's right.
You're right. You hit the nail on the head there. And look, it's hard for males, but I think because we've got, as a bloke, you're not supposed to cry and get emotional and look weak. It's that stigma that's I know myself. I try and break down to anyone that I speak with, in terms of it ain't weak to speak. At the end of the day, I'm always there. Whether a phone call or a message or whatever way from any of my mates or anyone in general. Just to be an ear to listen to, because having a conversation with someone, I know myself, I've been able to, when I've gone through the most horrendous times, sometimes where I've been able to just kind of empty the bucket, so to speak, and talk to somebody, it has helped.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
so when your family court ended, were you still with your second partner at the time, or did your second partner, did that collapse by the time your family court had finished with your first partner?
Collapsed within it. Yeah. So the relationship.
So you're sorry, KF, you're juggling two while you're still I
was juggling two. So my three children obviously are with my ex-wife.
Yep.
No children with the ex.
Yep.
And no children with the current.
Yep.
So So
did you have to go to court for anything with your ex, your second partner?
Not family court.
Not family court. Okay. Well, I'll let you carry on your journey if you want to keep going on about family court with your first one, or dive into your ex-partner.
So through the family court system, obviously, as we spoke, it went all the way through, and it was just backwards and forwards, and like you said, affidavit after affidavit, trying to do this and going through counselling, and they want you to do all these courses and programs. And
did you ever go to trial and get it and have it adjourned? As in not by your request, because the judge or the ICL wanted it adjourned?
100%. It was adjourned, and yet
and you still have to pay.
Still have to pay. You'll love this one. Is that there was one occasion we turned up to court, and my solicitor at the time said, look, convince me, and obviously in their best interest. I can understand, I'm not criticising my team at that stage because they thought it was in my best interest to do so. They convinced me to get a senior counsel barrister involved on a particular hearing that we had listed. And I thought to myself, oh, do I, don't I? Because I knew the cost involved. It was $10,000, right, to have her, the senior counsel, for whether she's in there for 5 minutes or whether she's in there for the 8 hours, right? So I thought, you know what? It's only money. At the end of the day, I've got to give everything I can to try and get access to my children. And, money's nothing at the end of the day if you don't have your kids, yeah? So I bit the bullet, spent the $10,000, and she was in there. It was an AVL, or via phone, at the time, and would have been in there for 10 minutes. Eventually the matter ended up getting adjourned anyway.
Did they say why?
The other side weren't ready.
Okay, this is what I hate. The whole point, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we went to a pre-readiness trial, and my understanding is the whole point you go to a pre-readiness trial is to make sure, is this party all good? Are you all good? You've crossed your T's, you dot your I's? Because I'm not going to give you a trial date unless everyone's good. And they go, yeah, we're all good. So we get the trial date, and then we rock up there, and then the ICO will be like, oh, no, I want another report. It's like, hold on a sec. We just had the pre-readiness trial. The judges asked everyone if we were good to go. Then you have the audacity to actually get the trial date and tell me, no, we're going to adjourn it. No, fuck you.
Exactly.
We rocked up, ready to go. Even my ex, she was like, no, we're good to go. It's an ICO. I was like, hold on. So I still have to pay. I've taken time off work. All my witnesses and family, they've taken time off work. I still have to pay my legal team because you wanted to adjourn something and you only brought it up on the day. It's robbery.
Absolutely. And look, we were trying. I was lucky in that respect that it never went to a trial. We were trying. The whole thing I wanted to do was just get consent orders, but even that was backwards and forwards because we could not come to an agreement. And eventually, as it does with most people, money dries up and you've just got to roll over and you've got to take what you can get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it did to me. Enough was enough. By the time that things had finally come to a head and finalised, my children were a lot older anyway, you know what I mean? So they were making their own decisions. So I'd gone through all the criminal court, which we're going to get to, and the expenses involved in that, and my head, I just couldn't take any more. I was at rock bottom. The children were just significantly affected, and I just thought to myself, I'll take what I can get now. What do you do?
What did your ex-wife do for work?
Worked in a bank.
Worked in a bank? Okay. And then your ex that you met after your wife, or did you?
Worked in corrective services.
Oh, okay, that's right. You said you worked together. Okay. So some drama obviously happens with your ex. What happens here?
So that relationship, as I said, when we started to see each other around about November.
About a year after you separated from your wife.
November 2017, having separated from the ex-wife in December 2016. So look, when we commenced that relationship, it was already tarnished in the fact that the ex-wife was just hell-bent on making my life a living hell, which then eventually brought the new partner into it at that stage. So I'll give you an example. So because she obviously knew who I was with at that stage, so she brought which I cannot believe that she did this, but she knew where one of my work colleagues had lived, which was close to near where we were residing. And they weren't friends or anything like that. This was a female staff member who I was working with. And so one particular day, she went around to this lady's house. And for whatever reason, well, I know what the reason is now, but at that stage, wanted to bring my marital issues, marital separation stuff, into the workplace, but making allegations that I was having an affair with my new partner.
Yeah.
But this was, so she did that in about April or so of 2017, right? Way before I was even with this person, right? It was just because, again, we were talking a lot because we were confiding in each other. Remember, we were both going through separations. You know, we weren't together per se. It was just an amicable work relationship. You know what I mean? Like, it was just two people getting on really well, and she couldn't buy it, didn't believe it. So, you know, at the end of the day, in say April 2017, at some date she's gone over to this staff member's place and told him whatever she's told him. And next minute, this staff member's come back who had a bloody big mouth, and just, you know what, when rumours run through workplaces, it just went troppo. So it caused a lot of disharmony, a lot of fractions in the workplace for both myself and my now ex-partner. And look, to be honest, I remember we weren't even going to get into a relationship when we eventually did in, say, November 2017, because of everything that had already been portrayed in the place, you know. It was, I guess, you can't help your feelings for one another, and that's how obviously they grew toward each other, and we eventually did get in a relationship. But yeah, it nearly didn't even happen because of the turmoil that had already kicked off. So that caused enormous drama in the workplace for both of us, for both, you know, my now ex-partner and myself. So I think things were over. Again, in hindsight, Jared, I think things were over and tarnished before it even began when you look back, because of, you know, toxicity and that was started. And this was about relation. You know, I'll give you an example. So she's gone to this staff member's place and said, alleged of having an affair with this work colleague, right? Couldn't provide any evidence. Where wasn't happening, just was not happening. You know what I mean? It was just the fact that, again, she could not accept that I had had enough, right? What I can't understand, and still to this day, is that she wanted to leave me a number of times towards the back end of that relationship, and that back end of the 18.5 years we were together. And she eventually stayed, as I said earlier, you know, for the sake of the children too. Likewise, I did. And so she knew it wasn't happy. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't tenable anymore. You know what I mean? But
do you reckon she still loved you? Is that why she did it, you reckon?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No doubt about that. And, you know, I was, look, I've always, I guess, earned reasonable good money.
Yep.
I was the main breadwinner. Obviously, she didn't have to work at that stage. I mean, certainly, you know, weren't rich by any stretch of the imagination, but comfortable. We could get by, you know. So she didn't have to work, and I was the breadwinner and providing, you know, for the family, and, you know, could cover the expenses. We were lucky enough that she could stay home the bulk of the time when the children were younger, so they didn't have to go to childcare that much. They still went to, you know, mingle with children and things like that, but they didn't have to go per se, you know. So I guess a big thing that I saw is the back end of that relationship, that she was very sour as well, because she had to go back to work. From a financial point of view, she had to go back full time because she couldn't afford to pay the rent and so on like that on her own, despite me paying her child support and also giving her cash on top of that. You know, I did that because I wanted to make sure that neither her or the children were disadvantaged.
Do you think she got comfortable and complacent then, having that freedom or lifestyle, and then having to go back to work was kind of like
yeah, it was. Yeah. And there's no doubt, because it puts a lot more stress on. Then she's got to manage, you know, she's managing the children, managing the day-to-day work commitments, you know, the added expenses that come involved and things like that, because no longer you could just rely on me. So it went sour. As I said, there's so many things that sent that off. None more than the fact, but when eventually I did go into a new relationship. So that, you know, from the time that she made all these allegations and that had no proof whatsoever behind it, that were unfounded, about me allegedly having an affair, to the point where eventually, you know, another 6-7 months down the track of I get into a new relationship, she's just gone troppo and gone berserk. It was like a switch flicked. It just set her off at a rate of knots.
This is a common behaviour I see and hear when I get a lot of guests on. Yeah, interesting. I wonder what the psychology behind it is, whether the partner still loves you, whether the ex still loves you and it's trying to, make your life hell, be spiteful that way. I'm not too sure. I don't have the answer.
Yeah, look, I have no doubt that she obviously still has strong feelings for me. And, it was like, well, hang on, I don't want you, but I don't want anyone else to have you as well. That's kind of
controlling in a way, really.
It is controlling. It is. And, as you mentioned before, that the reliance and complacency about me being the one that's working and, the provider, and all of a sudden that's gone to a large degree, even though you're still supporting from a child support perspective. And as I said, I paid additional money on top. Like, I can't remember what I owed her at that stage, but whatever it was, I was paying substantially more on top of that. And all I said is, look, just don't cause me any grief. I just wanted to be able to have an amicable situation with her. I wanted to be a proactive and an active father for the 3 children. But I'll tell you this is something that really set the tone, Jared, in terms of it's stamped in my head, it's stamped in my memory, it'll never go away. She said something to me the day I moved out of the family home, and it was
stuck with you since.
And I'll quote it. She said, "You look me in the eyes," and she said, "You make no mistake with what I'm about to say. The day you walk out this fucking house, I'm going to make your life a living fucking hell. You better remember that." And I tell you, there's never been a truer word said than when she said that. Because I had been with her for so long, I thought, a lot of hot air, a lot of lip service and whatever, it's all okay.
Emotions are high.
Correct. In the heat of the moment, emotions are high, hot air, like we all say things, heat of the moment with things that we might regret down the track or what have you. I certainly have many, many times. But I just thought, she's just angry and upset. Fair enough, Nope. Spot on. Absolutely spot on with what she said. Never, ever truer word said, And the sad part is that, you look back and I'm sure you'll relate to this too, and a lot of the viewers, is that she was also guided by a lot of her friends that have also gone through toxic or separations, and one of them in particular had that many previous relationships that I was aware of, that my ex-wife was quite close to, that was so-called giving her guidance. I thought, well, how's that going to end, right? Look at your form, you know what I mean? You're probably the last person that, but again, that's her friends, and, I can't tell her what to do, and, you'll find out the hard way. But unfortunately, I was having to live it because she was rolling her up and poisoning her and feeding her with all this bullshit and crap. And myself and my children, and having to continue to go through it, And but after the separation, so when we were separated, that's when things really escalated, both verbally and from a physical perspective. So one particular day so it was after when she was trying to accuse me of having this affair. I remember a day I had my eldest son. So let's just assume it was around about 11 years age.
Yep.
Went out. We went and I think I had to go to get a computer or something like that. So I came back. He came out with me anyway. We went shopping. Came back and dropped him home, and I pulled up. And I remember seeing my ex-wife and one of her very close friends. They were standing in the front yard, and my daughter was playing with her friends, and my middle son was playing with. He had some of his mates in the garage because the garage door was open.
Yep.
So anyhow, I pulled up to drop my son back home, and she's kind of come over to the car and give me any instructions like this, pointing down to wind the window
Yeah.
down. So I wind the window down and her friend's standing close to her. And she's absolutely unleashed on me, right? Just called me everything under the sun, you know, I'm fucking this, I'm fucking that, and whatever else. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she starts punching me in the head about five or six times. My son is still sitting in the passenger seat,
Witnessing it.
right? Punching me. I've got my seatbelt on it, just absolutely laying into me 5 or 6 times, right? Punching me in the head. So I said to my son, you know, you better get out, go inside. You know, I just wanted to, I don't know. I just wanted to get out of there. Like I was just, the emotion was just, you know,
Yep.
it was overwhelming. So, as I said, she was just calling me every under the sun, again, trying to accuse me, you know, of having an affair and everything else. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about, right? I don't know where you're going on about. And at that stage, her friend that was standing next to her smirking, you know, had this smirk on her face. So once my son got out the car, I've taken off. I got around the corner and I remember getting around the corner and I remember just absolutely breaking down in tears. I was just beside myself thinking, what the hell just happened? Like, I've got my son sitting in the car.
Witnessed it all.
I've just got assaulted, right? I didn't retaliate at all, not once. Yep. I just said, I tried to block myself from getting hit. And, you know, she was yelling and screaming at me. So all the children had heard, my 3 children obviously heard it. Their friends that were at the house heard it because this was, as I said, this happened on the front lawn. I'm in the car in the street. They're in the driveway or the garage, so they clearly can hear it. And she just didn't care, you know. So, I remember, you know, Jesus getting around that corner and breaking down. And what do I do? What do I do now? Do I go to the police? Do I go and report it? Things are already quite, you know, it's in turmoil. Is this going to make it worse? So I rang up and spoke to my uncle at that stage, who is very high up in the police.
Yep.
And kind of reading past what happened, he said, look, he goes, but, you know, you can go and report it by all means, but, you know, do you really want to go down that path? It may add fuel to the fire where things are currently at, because they knew, my family knew how toxic this separation was, you know, and he said, look, I'm going to leave it with you. If you want my opinion, I wouldn't, but I'll leave it with you. And I thought to myself, he's probably right. You know, I mean, if I go and I do it, and if they charge her for assault, you know, we get dragged through, then what's this going to do? Family court's already underway. It's you know what I mean. Dragging the kids in. So I just said to myself, I just cop it. You know, mistake number 1, I guess. You know, at that stage.
But uncharted waters for you. You haven't been in that situation before. It wasn't until later on you'd find out, oh, geez.
Exactly right. So, you know, that was, things just started to spiral from that point onwards, spiraled out of control at a rate of knots, you know. It became worse and worse and worse. You know, she'd come around my house, and when I moved out, and she'd put scenes on at the house, the ex-wife. It was toxic. Bad. You know, there's times there. Well, I guess if we move through, so when we move into where I got into the new relationship, you know, after spending a while together, we eventually moved in, the new partner and I, and the ex-wife would come around and lose it at the door. You know, put on a scene. In like my ex-partner had 3 children from her
previous relationship,
3 boys from her previous relationship, and they had to witness the ex-wife just absolutely carrying on like a banshee. You know what I mean? In the front door and things like that, and it was horrendous. You know, I'd go, Jared. I'd go to football training because my 3 children very active and play sports, and you know, whilst down at the footy ground, my ex-wife would put on the biggest scene. She would yell and abuse me and scream at me and call me everything under the sun in the presence of, you know, other parents and other children. One day she attempted to run me over in her vehicle. she, with the children, mind you, with the children, our children in the car, took off, saw me and accelerated at a rate of knots, and because it was gravel surface, the wheels were spinning and gravel flying out the back, and look, there was just drama after drama. She came around our house, tried to kick the door, or did kick the door in, not physically in, but like kick the door. It was on and on and on. Like I just got bombarded with messages on the phones, and like because of the toxicity, this is coming back to the family court scenario. Is that there was an agreement there because we obviously couldn't communicate because hostilities were so high. We had to have this diary, right? So I used to call it, I nicknamed it the Book of Evil, right? So we had this diary in place, and it would come from, so when the kids went home with her, she was the reason why this was done is so she could write things in there, in terms of directly supposed to be related to the children. So, if the kids had an event on, if I could attend or if I could pick them up or whatever, it was supposed to be directly. Yeah. She used this as a venting exercise. So paragraph after paragraph, there was just a spray. I was absolutely sprayed from pillar to post. So she wasn't using it as it was supposed to be used for, right? And these poor children had to convey this diary. One of them had to put it in their school bag, take it to school with them because I pick them up after school when I had them. And then I was to read that, and then I was to reply. Most of the time I wouldn't reply because I would only reply to stuff that was directly related to the kids because I'm not responding to getting sprayed on, right? I kept all the evidence of it. I had photos of it all, right? And so I thought, okay, when we go back to the family court, I show them. Nothing. Doesn't matter. Oh, it's emotional, But there's threats in there. There's threats. So, like, you got to be joking me. Like, what more do you need? It's like the kids got to the stage where they would fight amongst themselves about who's taking the book because they didn't want to take it. That's how traumatized they were. They knew that whatever's in there is not 99% of the time not going to be good, and it wasn't designed for purpose because we could not communicate. The ex-wife and I could not communicate, But Jared, it took 11, so there was 11 police events made by myself, right, about incident after incident. So the incident where she come around to our house kicking door, and incident where, tried to run me over in the car, all the threats and abuses at the football grounds, the threats on the phone, everything. There was about, she threw items at my car, you know what I mean, that were captured on CCTV out the front of, say, Hungry Jack's and things like that. Majority of the time, it was done in the presence of our 3 children. So the 3 children have witnessed the behaviour that's displayed by their mother, right? So 11 police reports are made, which they call them events, right, documented. Now, I did that because I wanted to cover myself. I wasn't physically scared of her, right, from a physical perspective. I was emotionally concerned, right, and I was concerned for my partner at the time, which was the new partner, and I was concerned for, if this keeps going south, I need something to protect me as well, because if eventually I lose my shit, which I was trying and every avenue not to do, I want backup, you know what I mean? Only on the 12th event, finally, I got an AVO. But with the 11 events prior to that, they were saying, they would contact her. They would either go to her house, they would ring her, whatever, and they would say to her, is this going on, blah, blah, blah. And they warned her, right? So they warned her. So the 11 occasions they warned her, but no.
11 too many.
11 too many. Only on the 12th occasion, they finally took an AVO out. And type 2, no contact AVO. So it goes through the court system. We get to court. Initially, the police wanted to take it out for a standard 2-year period. She said, no way. I'm only going to accept it for, if I'm going to accept it, I'm going to accept it for 6 months. 6 months. Wow. No, I'm only going to accept it for 6 months. So without it going to a hearing, finally between the police and her solicitor, they agreed to 12 months, right? So she said 12 months, okay, I'll wear it. This was in September 2018 because it expired in September 2019. So it was a 12-month type 2 no contact ADVO. I was the pin-up person who needed protection.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So despite that in place, on 2 occasions, she breached it, right? First time, she was so she spoke to me at the football ground, yelling and screaming and carrying on to me. Second time was at another football ground where she was absolutely into me, abusing me because my son was getting limited game time and I should be standing up to the coach and this, and she absolutely unleashed. Again, witnesses present there front and centre. First time the police go around, they warn her. Yep. Second time, when she was carrying on and making threats, mind you, as well towards me, as I said, in the presence of a number of people, they charged her for breach contravening AVO, right? Now, me knowing the system, how I do, because as you know, I spent so long in it. If a male, anyone for that matter gets charged with the breach of ADVO,
gone.
You're supposed to be locked up, front court, and you can reapply for bail, and the judge or magistrate make that decision whether you get bail again.
Yep.
So the first time the police go around and speak to her, they gave her a warning, told her, right, no, you can't be doing that stuff. You need to be pulling your head in, blah, blah, blah. Second time, when they charge her, eventually, she gets what they call a CAN. So it's a court attendance notice, right? So where they issued to her at a house and that she had to front court on a particular day for those charges. She turns up to court. I go to court and the magistrate gives her a warning and dismisses the matter, right? And I'm just absolutely livid with what's going on, going, I can't believe it, that the prosecution was up there trying to say, look at this history. There's been event after event after event on this case, right? And that's what happens.
Yeah.
I just could not make any sense of it. And remember, I'm still working in the system at that stage, you know.
Well, I've never heard of that happening to a father, and based on the stories I've told, I've only learnt this since doing the podcast. I can't get over how many people in prison for breach of DV. When I say breach, she'll text you, oh, hey, what are you up to this weekend? You reply, yes, breach. I'm just thinking, and these guys are getting locked up. I'm just thinking, you've just replied yes, or yeah, I'm free this weekend. You've just replied to a message, you've breached, and you're in prison. I'm just thinking, that is fucking crazy.
Unbelievable. It is exactly what happens. It's.
But then you tell me that, and unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me because she's a female. You know,
I have. Look, I had a lot of mates in the police because of my previous occupation, and I played football with a lot of police over a lot of years. You know what I mean? So I had a very good relationship with a lot of them, and they could not even believe that what had happened. And they said, look, if it had been a different LAC, local area command, then it would have been a different story. Whether that was the case or not, who knows? But I couldn't believe it because, yeah, you know, I'd seen in my occupation that from my time with corrections that breach after breach, you know, that you should be getting locked up, then you've got a front court, and then you've got to, you know, you've got to put your case forward for why you should be released. Do you know what I mean? Didn't happen. So it was like, wow, like, what is it going to take? You know what I mean? Is it going to take for me to be killed or what? I don't know at that stage. So anyhow, moving on from that. So September 2018 comes and goes and the AVO expires. Well.
and then she got free range.
Oh, exactly. And when that free range hit, things escalate, and they escalated at a rate of knots.
×2.
Yep. It was like, fuck you, you know.
You're
my site, payback. I'm going to, you know. And, you know, again, like she'd been doing it all the way through anyway, but I mean, in terms of manipulating the kids and saying to the kids, you know, stuff like, you know, obviously trying to poison them. Oh, I love my now ex's kids more than I love my own, you know what I mean? And trying to turn the children against me. But you due to go to your father's this weekend? No, you're not going, right? So she wouldn't let me have them, right? So there was periods there where, so the agreement was I was supposed to have them every second weekend, and on the off week I would have them for 2 days during that week.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
Like Wednesday, Thursday, something.
yeah, something like that. You know, I think it might have been like pick them up on a Tuesday night, and then have Wednesday, and then go back. Yeah, so it was midweek. So I was happy with that. I thought, okay, that's satisfied. You know, kids were happy with that when it happened, right? The sad part is it didn't happen that often. Yeah. And as you know, if they don't comply, those court orders, consent orders aren't worth the paper they're written on. Exactly. To get a breach heard takes forever and a day, more money, you know, like it's just ridiculous. So I kept trying to liaise with her, cool, calm and collected as I could possibly be. Obviously the AVO's expired, right? So look, I want to see my kids. Fuck you. You'll see them when I want you to see them. All right, here we go. Right. I just knew this was going down a bad path, right? Mind you, through this entire way along this situation, right, my mental health has continued to deteriorate, right? So my mental health from the time we separated, right, to where things absolutely blew up, which was on the 5th of December 2019, okay, it deteriorated at a rate of knots. And I ended up in psych units. I was getting psychological treatment, but because of the ongoing issues with her, it wasn't working. I ended up, you know, like attempting suicide on multiple occasions. As I said, I spent weeks on end in psych units, you know, because I was copping it from both ends. So with my new partner, right, things she couldn't deal. Like she had her own dramas with her ex, but she couldn't deal with the fact that the drama that was going on with my ex, you know, and she would constantly, I could not make any sense of it, Jared, because she constantly said, fucking, why don't you go back with her if you care for her? I said, what are you talking about? If I wanted to go back with her, I never would have left her. Yeah. And I've had many of chances to go back if I wanted to try and go back with her and reconcile that relationship, right? For some reason, she was like, as our relationship, I guess, grew with my ex-partner, a lot of traits became known. And, you know, for example, like when we first got together, like she wasn't really a smoker. She had a cigarette once in a blue moon because I don't my personal thing is I don't like being with smokers, right? That's just me, personal thing, right? So she then started to contain cigarettes on a regular basis. She then was drinking excessively, right? So with the ex, we would sit out because when we were living together, the only real time, she had the young children, so the only time we could kind of have adult conversations was out in the back under our pergola area, right? While her children were occupied on the video games or what have you, watching TV, right? So often in our house, we would have arguments they would increase, right? They weren't there at the start, but gradually, surely they increased. Yeah. And they were all to do with the ex, with my ex-wife, right? Some of it was, well, you know, your ex has fucked up our work situation, blah, blah, blah. And look, some of it was valid. She's right, 100%. But she wasn't articulating is that that's affected both of us. And I felt bad. Don't get me wrong. I felt horrendously bad for her because it was our work relationship was tarnished massively. You know what I mean? With what's gone on. So, and that was a safe space before. And then it wasn't. It was a place that I actually enjoyed going to, and then I didn't. Yeah. Right? So the ex-partner had a lot of hatred towards, obviously, my ex-wife. And then that hatred shifted towards me, right? Because obviously I was previously in a relationship with my ex-wife, and my ex-wife's now come in and ruined her employment, blah, 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 which happens 100%. Yeah. She ruined mine as well, right? So we're both in this. So I was trying to show empathy, compassion, and all those type of things because I could understand where she was going from. But one thing led to another, and our relationship began to diminish. But a concerning part, Jared, was that each time we sat out the back and we had a conversation in our pergola area, was that she would drink and drink and drink, and she would get to the point where she'd get intoxicated, and she'd unleash on me like that. They get that extra strength, and she would just unleash on me, and just fire whatever she want without thinking, So there was a lot of hurtful stuff spoken, a lot of threats made, and it just completely disintegrated the relationship. You know what I mean? Yeah. So obviously with the ex-partner, so as I was saying, that we to have conversations. We're at the back in the pergola area and things like that. And when we did so, nearly on all occasions, she'd be out there and drinking and so on. And I wasn't I've never been a big drinker myself, but obviously I was out there with her, and don't get me wrong, I'd consume a couple as well. But my ex would get to the point where she was heavily intoxicated on a regular basis, and it just caused argument after argument after argument, let alone the financial impact that we were doing, because obviously we had a joint account too, so for the financial costs involved. But it was, we didn't have the same drama when she wasn't drinking as what we did when she was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, as a relationship, I guess as that relationship deteriorated, it just became more and more volatile in the sense that, verbally, and, there was pushing and shoving and carrying on like that, and bits and pieces. So things were just, it was just toxic. It was toxic too. So moving on from that, very sadly, everything came to a head. So actually, I'll come back from that. So we ended up deciding that in the best interest that we kind of would still be together, but we'd move out. So she moved out with her children, ex-partner, and I moved closer to work, because what I probably didn't mention earlier is that because of the fractions that were brought into the workplace, I ended up getting relocated to another work location.
Yeah.
So where I was living, it was a decent commute. So I ended up, once we decided that, okay, well, look, we'll still be together, but we'll kind of move out separately, maybe to let the dust settle, is I moved, closer to where I was going to work, So anyhow, things continued. We gave it a shot and continued to stay together. But it just, it was, I guess, where both our heads were in the scenario, the damage was done. Look, she was also dealing with her ex-husband, who, he actually committed suicide.
Oh, shit.
He actually committed suicide about 7 months maybe after we got together.
Shit.
As well. So she was dealing with the fallout of that, and then the fallout.
With a lot.
With the children. Oh, the whole thing was a mess.
A lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts. It's just horrendous. And look, in fairness, what we didn't need, it was already bad enough. Like, she obviously already had her issues with her ex-husband. I already had my issues with the ex-wife. But once that crossed over, it just, the waters were too muddy. And despite how strong we both tried to be, and we tried to manage it and bottle it, it just continued to just
1 step forward, 2 steps back.
100%. And it was bad situation. Like, I don't know, she was hell bent on wanting me to somehow fix the situation with my ex-wife, as in, like, can I fucking stop her from doing? How am I going to stop her from doing what she's doing? I can't control her. The police can't even seem to control her and stop her. You know what I mean? Like, she's just running ravid the way she is. You know,
Yeah.
it's just there's no way in the world that I could stop it. So yeah, I mean our relationship, and again to Jared, you know, other friends and you know family get involved and things like that, and it just when more people stick their finger in the pie, it just derailed very quickly. So as I said, I moved out, and I was trying to get my head in a better position. She was trying to get her head in a better position, and so on. And we saw each other all the time. And I guess leading into December, the 5th of December, 2019, I hadn't seen my children for about 6 weeks. My ex-wife was hell-bent to contain them. My son's behaviour, my middle son's behaviour at school had deteriorated. He was finding himself getting in a bit of trouble because, you know, they hadn't been seen. Like they were sensing that the issues that were going on between obviously the ex-wife and myself were having a huge impact, as they would, on the children. Do you know what I mean? So they were obviously, you know, he was getting into arguments, he was getting into fights at school. She was getting contacted because she was the primary carer. She was getting contact from the school about the children. Well, guess who got the blame for the kids' behaviour? I did. So she would either message me or ring me up and absolutely unload on me. You know, my son's
Doing so
been going to get suspended from school, been in a fight, done this, talking to people inappropriately. It's all because of you. It's all because of the way you speak to me. Oh, hang on, hold on a second here, right? Nah, you know, you're not seeing them. You're a bad influence on the kids. Bad influence? I'm not even seeing them.
Right.
How can I be bad influence? You're not letting me see them. So I just, as I said, like I just tried to be as amicable as I possibly could be and tried to be the best person, the best father I could be. I was also battling enormous mental health issues at that stage, right?
I'll pause you there real quick. You know, I work at I don't care bills. I work at Gold Coast Uni Hospital. Anyway, I during my time when I was going through family court, sometimes in our roles and responsibilities, we have to go in the PICU, which stands for psychiatric intensive care unit, and I'll never judge the patients for being in there because I used to sit there thinking I could end up in here. You know, when you're haven't seen your kids, you're staring at the ceiling every night. You know, you never know someone's story. You know, and there's times where I used to think, there's even today I think, how am I still here? You know, and I thank my dog, but I think there's every time I walk past that unit, I'm thinking, man, I could have been in here one time. You know, so yeah, sorry.
No, 100%. It's so yeah, it's it was bad, you know, like and leading, like I was in a hell of a headspace around that time. As I said, because of the relationship issues between my ex-wife and my ex-partner, I'd already spent considerable time in private mental health facilities. And when I say considerable time, at least a month. I think I've been in there twice for 2 weeks at a time. So I'd spent a month in there to try and get myself better. And that was in 2018 and start around about the start of 2018 or so, and it was about 12 months later, start of 2019 or thereabouts, you know what I mean? So I wasn't in a good way. And I was trying to, you know, because I knew I had to be good for myself and I wanted to be there for the children, you know, because I could sense the way this was going down. Like I was on myself. I was having bad thoughts, bad headspace. I was abusing my prescription medication that I was on. You know, my antidepressants and, you know, like your Valiums and temazepams and all sleeping tablets and everything else. I was popping them like Tic Tacs, you know. It became my way to cope, you know.
Temporary Band-Aid.
Yeah. So I never used illicit drugs. It was prescribed medication was my problem. It was my, you know, my coping mechanism, I guess you could say, because to try and numb that pain, you know. But in hindsight, I was only making it worse because by doing that, it, as we're about to get to when I discuss the incidents that took place, is that it inhibited and affected my ability to think rationally.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't good. So, as I said, I spent some time in those private facilities. So getting closer towards December 2019, having experienced, obviously, I was still copying the ongoing relationship, separation issues with the ex-wife. I was battling because my ex-wife was just relentless. I was going through, a very uncomfortable situation where we were at with the ex-partner at that stage. As I said, she was battling her stuff as well. I was battling mine, and we were battling our stuff together.
Yep.
That we were trying to work through. It was, as I said, her alcohol. I mean, how I would describe it was an alcoholic, because she relied on having to drink alcohol. She was certainly functioning because she could work and she would turn up to work, but she would certainly drink large portions. And when I mean large portions, she could go through 2 bottles of wine in a sitting out the backyard. She could go through 1 bottle of wine and, half a dozen to a dozen beers.
Was she always like that?
No, that's the thing.
Yeah.
No, she wasn't, because I wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is that she wasn't like that at the start.
So
it escalated through.
That was her Band-Aid, I guess.
Yeah. That's how I look at it. Exactly. It was her so it was her coping mechanism to deal with that. And we all know that, you get yourself in that state, it affects your ability to think and process and whatever else. So she's saying probably stuff that, she didn't really want to say, or I'm assuming, she regret and whatever. But like when things are said and done, you can't take it back, and it's quite hurtful and spiteful. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure I've said some horrendous things as well. Yeah. So I'm far from innocent as well, from this situation. And it was bad. It was bad. So I could see where that relationship was going. It was going to a point where that was going to end. And as much as, in hindsight, I look back now and, there was a lot of red flags at the start where I probably shouldn't have even got into that relationship, but I did. It was comfort. We felt.
Do you think that might have been a Band-Aid too, the second relationship, either with the ex-partner?
Look, it probably.
I know that sounds rude, mean, but maybe, you're looking for
comfort.
Yeah, while you're dealing with all the family court drama.
Possibly, possibly it was at that stage, and possibly it was for her as well. I don't know, but it was when I've looked back at it and I've had a lot of time to reflect. Is that there was a lot of red flags at the start where before we even were in a relationship, just when we were kind of confiding in each other or maybe feeling each other out and things like that. Do you know what I mean? Like it was, I just, anyway, you can't help who you fall in love with and you feel for. So, fall for, I should say. So, that relationship happened. And, don't get me wrong, I had very strong feelings for her. I really did. And she articulated to me that she had the same. So, but look, that didn't stop things from going down the bad path. So we're all dealing with a lot, as I said, she was dealing with the fallout, the suicide of her ex-husband, having to deal with managing 3 children on her own, being a mother to those kids, trying to work in a situation that was completely in turmoil now for both of us because, again, of the fallout that we both went through as a result of what my ex-wife had brought into the workplace.
Yep.
It just cannot be underestimated how much damage that did. It really did for both parties, for both my ex-partner and I. And I think that was the start of the end, the beginning of the end once that happened. Because, when, we both had that work, our workplace was our safe place. Our workplace was where we enjoyed going. We both loved our job. We loved being able to do our job, provide, to the community and do what we did, and unfortunately that was significantly affected, and when you're dealing with personal stuff at home and on the outside of work, then you got your personal stuff coming to the workplace and you're dealing with workplace, there was just no safe space. It was in your face 24/7, so we're copping it at work, we're copping it when we go home. There's nowhere to go. So leading up to December, I noticed because the ex-wife had completely withdrawn the children from me. And as I said to you earlier, that she was blaming me for the children's behaviour at school, and she was copying apparently a lot of grief at home from the kids, and because they wanted to see me, we want to see dad, and blah blah blah. So I was still having phone contact with them, but I hadn't seen them for, as I said, leading up to about 6 weeks. So sadly, I guess the headspace I was in, Jared, I was in a bad place. I thought, well, I'm not going to see my kids. My workplace is toxic. I don't want to be there anymore. That's going down a bad road. My relationship with my new partner is probably going to end if it already hasn't. Do you know what I mean? So I had all these horrendous thoughts going through my head, and at that stage I wanted to end it. And so I had considered various methods of how I do that, and without going into too gruesome of detail, as I attempted to hang myself on 2 occasions, and I was found. I was found in time, conscious. I don't remember. I just remember waking up in hospital. I don't remember after I did what I did. To the next point, I remember waking up in hospital. There was times I woke up in the ICU. There's times I woke up in psych units, where I can recall. I've been told by
bits and bobs.
Because unfortunately, family had found me on one occasion, police had found me on another occasion. On another occasion, I attempted to gas myself. I put in a hose in the exhaust pipe, put the windows up in the car. I fell unconscious at the wheel. I was found by police who knew me, obviously from on a personal level. So I could only imagine how traumatising it would have been for them. Again, I woke up in ICU as a relation to that. So there was a few occasions that I attempted, and I still have no idea to this day of how I'm still here, because I shouldn't be, on all accounts I shouldn't be, and it's I mean, I know I am, but
that's heavy, man. Appreciate you sharing that, because I know it's going to connect to a lot of other fathers out there. During this, I should ask earlier, are you atheist? And like since trying to take your life, have you turned to God at all, maybe, or?
Oh, not really. I've never been a religious person.
Yeah, same. I've never.
I've never been religious. Look, there's no doubt. You know what? It might sound strange. Do you know I put this down to my mother, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've always said she's my angel.
Yeah.
Up above. And again, I'm not a religious person at all.
You spiritual? I'm spiritual.
Spiritual,
yeah,
yes.
I'm the same.
I'd say spiritual.
I feel the universe. If you're here for a reason. The universe aligns your stars for a reason.
So I'd certainly say spiritual, definitely. Look, clearly someone's looking over me. I mean, for example, like I was told. So my auntie had found me the first time. The second time, police had found me on the ground because the branch had snapped off a tree. I was unconscious, so I don't remember. And as I said, the other came, the gassing, the police found me slumped over the wheel. That someone, from what they tell me, because I asked them how,
smelled it.
A bystander had walked past the vehicle walking their dog and seen that there was this garden hose connected to that. They rang the police, and the police came, and I don't know whether they smashed the window or broke into the lock. I don't know how. I don't know. I can't remember how that happened. But they found me, and as I said, next time I woke up, I was in hospital.
It's interesting. It's interesting. We're having this topic now because recently, I've reconnected with my daughter and the mother of my daughter overseas, and I haven't spoken to her for years. But I've spoken a little bit, saying that I was struggling myself, similar to you, and I just asked her, I said, did you ever think, like, if I ever took my life, which I there was times where I thought of. I didn't go to the attempt of executing it, but would you have cared? Like deep down, I feel like maybe that would have made you happy, like because it's you go on toe to toe for those years, and she sort of broke down. She said, "Of course not. Like I'd be heartbroken." I said, "It's I guess maybe when you're on either side of the fence, you don't really put yourself in that other person's shoes." But sort of where I'm going with the story, did your ex-wife find out about this, and was there a caring part there, or did she care, or was there?
They certainly both found out.
Yep.
So obviously the ex-wife found out, and the ex-partner found out. I don't know. Well, I don't know certainly from my perspective, she never checked in or anything like that, and nor did I expect her to. Do you know what I mean? Like the ex-wife, I know what she said behind closed doors to the children. But look, they certainly know that I had gone to those measures. I saw no other way out. I saw no other way. And look, as I was saying, Jared, I was heavily abusing prescription medication, heavily, to get myself into the state where I was. And and at that stage I was drinking on top of it. So, mixing that cocktail of prescribed heavy prescription medication.
If you don't mind me asking, what I used to take Lexapro or antidepressant.
I was on the same.
Lexapro, yeah.
I was on the same.
Did you find trying to come off it was hard?
It was hard. Yeah,
it was. I didn't realise until I was trying to come off how hard it was, and I was doing all this research, and people were like trying to sue the company because they couldn't come off it. You really had to taper down, taper. But I must say, it did help me when I was on it, when I was going through those times. But trying to come off it was hard.
Look, I was on probably so many different types of antidepressants. So Lexapro was the one that I handled best, but I was on
all the other ones.
So many you could the psychiatrist and had tried me on so many different variants of medication, and that was Lexapro was the one I tolerated the best, but it still did nothing to curb my thoughts at that stage, and they upped my dose and upped my dose and upped my dose, and I was on quite a high dose at that stage. The only thing that was working for me was taking large amounts of Valium. And it made me like a zombie. Like say, you should take, I think the doctor prescribes 1 to 2 as required. I could pump 20 of those things. I'm not joking to you. There's times, as I said, where I had a box of 50.
Wow.
Right? I had a box of 50. They came in, and the times where I did what I did, I'd take that box. Right? Make me sick, and I'd drink and be vomiting and whatever else. And that's the headspace I was in, because I wanted to remain numb. It made me numb, so I wanted to remain numb, because by being that feeling, it blocked out me being so sensitive to what was going around me with the separations, with not seeing my children.
Numb all the feeling.
Yeah, it did, and that's where I got. So, and I've always been quite fit and healthy, and very, as I said to you earlier in our chat, a very athletic and sporty type of guy. I play football all my life, and it knocked me for 6. It became so heavy. Everything became the whole world just became heavy. I'm like most people. You pay for child support. You're paying for kids that you can't even see. You can't even see. So anyhow, things got that bad, and so where it all came, I guess you could say, to a head once and for all, was the 5th of December, 2019. So leading into that day, as we've already spoken about, there were those number of suicide attempts. I wasn't seeing my children. I was copping it day in and day out from my ex-wife. My relationship was on the rocks with my ex-partner. We were kind of still seeing each other, but it was certainly strained. Do you know what I mean? So anyhow, on the particular day in question, on the 5th of on December, is my ex-wife had unleashed on me about behaviour of my son. This was a Thursday, mind you. I was due to have them that weekend. I already had missed out on them.
Planned. Everything
Yep,
planned.
I had everything planned that week. I was so looking forward to it.
I know that feeling.
So, yep, she had unleashed on me, said, nah, you're not fucking having them. The behaviour at school, she blamed me, blamed this. And we got into a pretty heated argument because what she had done, so when my mother, so to give you some context, my mother had passed away, right, in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to treat my mother like absolute shit, right? It was just appalling the way she treated my mother. My mother, was such a loving person, gentle person, would give the clothes off her back for anybody, right? So all she wanted to care about, she cared about me. She cared about her grandkids, So she always did whatever she could to make sure they had a good life. Okay? And my ex-wife saw that as my mother trying to take over, trying to take control of the kids. But she never did, right? Because my ex-wife's mother was the opposite to what mine was. You know what I mean? So, anyhow. So before my mother passed away, because she did not get on well with my ex-wife, she made a promise to myself and my auntie who were by her bedside, right? Because my mother died in my hands, Jared, in my arms. She actually said to me, she goes, I need you to make two promises to me, to both my auntie and myself. And that was that my ex-wife never got a cent of her inheritance, because she knew that, my ex-wife knew that the inheritance was going to come to me because I was the only child from that union. And she never knew where she was buried. She ended up being cremated, but she didn't want her to know, because she said there's no reason she needs to come and ever see me. I just want to let it go. So coming back to it, leading to that date, the same night on the 5th of December 2019, when she unleashed on me about my kids' behaviour and, was telling me you're not going to have the kids this weekend and whatever else, I also found out through my son that they had this day off school. And I don't know if it was that day or it was the day before. There was a pupil free day or something happened, a teacher strike or something happened. And they went to the cemetery. The kids went to the cemetery. Usually I wouldn't think twice about it. Or, why you go to a cemetery, right? All of a sudden, would you go and see I thought, okay, well, maybe because that's where our firstborn was cremated there, you know what I mean? Like the stillborn we had. No, we went and saw Nan. Who went and saw Nan? Oh, Mum and I. And I said, what, all of yous? All of yous, yeah. Now, I never, Jared, told her ever where my mother was buried. So what the kids said, when I said to them, how did you find that? Like, how did she find out where she is? Right. Mind you, I was beside myself with this. And I know some people might think that's quite trivial, but it wasn't. To me, it was very important because I'm trying to uphold what my mother's respects were, not mine, right? So they turned around and said that she had got that information out of my daughter, my young daughter, because she was young. She told her where it is. So anyhow, she went there. So I was absolutely beside myself because she was told not to ever, there was no need for her to go there, right? So, and also, Jared, what I forgot to tell you before was that when my mother passed away in 2017, right, because this shows some more context into the situation, is that, so when my mother died, I went around that night because I said to my ex-wife, do you mind if I come around because I want to break the news to the kids? Right, yep, that's fine. You can come around and tell the children. So I went around to the family home and I told the kids, this was the 26th of July, 2017. I remember that date clear as day. And I went around to the children and sitting at the kitchen table, dining table, and they knew something was clearly, they could see me, and they already knew that their grandmother was in hospital because they'd seen her a few days earlier. So once I broke that news to them, they were absolutely bawling their eyes out, right? bawling their eyes out. Likewise, so was I. Right? I was just an emotional wreck. And after I tried to, I told them what was going on and tried to calm the children down and giving them cuddles and saying, look, it's going to be all right, confiding the kids and what have you. And settled them down as best as could be. I was having a conversation with the ex-wife at the kitchen bench. And at that stage, I just said, well, look, this infighting and arguments going between you and I, it needs to stop, right? I said, enough's enough. Like, Christ, I've now lost my mother. The kids have lost their grandmother, who they were exceptionally close to. We've gone through a lot of crap. Remember, this is back in 2017, and this is where things are really heating up. And she turns around, and I cannot believe that she said this, Jared. And I said to her, like, come on, obviously what her name was, and I said to her, what's it going to take? Given with all everything's going on, what is it going to take for this to stop? Like, enough's enough. She leant over the kitchen bench, and just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, she said to me, you give me 100,000 of your mother's inheritance and I'll leave you the fuck alone. And I said, what did you just say? She said, you fucking heard me. I said, yeah, I did. And I tell you, how, I can say it now, how I didn't launch over that table or that bench at that stage, I'll fucking never know, right? Because I saw red. But I didn't. Straight away, the kids are right behind me, grabbed my keys, grabbed my wallet, and I got out of there. And again, I got out of there and I just bawled my eyes out around the corner. I could not believe that she said that.
Why is it that there's some women are just so money greedy, focus on, it just...
So that's why I say, having this context behind and all these thoughts, it leads up to what I was saying, getting closer to December. So you can put into context that why it was also, because I she was told, I made it clear to her after Mum passed that Mum's wishes was that she's not to get anything from my mum's inheritance and she's not to know where she is. So she knew from me that that's what my mother had asked for.
Yeah.
That's it. That's not my request. That's my mother's request. Respect it. We're not together. You don't need to know. You don't need to get anything. No. She still got money out of the inheritance out of it because she got that part of the property settlement when we went through the divorce, because the divorce obviously happened at the start of 2018. So she got some out of it anyway, because my solicitor turned around and said that money becomes part of the pool, right? So part of the breaking up of the assets and the money was that she not only got what we had, and she got most of what we had, and I signed the family car over to her and everything else, was she got she got some of my mother's inheritance.
Do you reckon this is why she dragged family court out for so long?
Well,
but your mum, sorry, because what year was your grandmother or your mum? Your mum, yeah, 2017. Okay, yeah, I got you. But when did the inheritance clear? Not till
later that year.
Later that year. Okay, I got you. Oh man, it's like I can put a hand on my heart. Like I would never do that to my ex, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was horrendous. So that's what I mean. Like all these feelings are coming over me, and when I got to the stage that we were talking about before, so we're getting to the really bad bit in 2019 is that all these thoughts and feelings and emotions come flooding back about what was going on, right? So all of a sudden we've had a massive argument on the phone, massive argument on the 5th of December. So 5th of December, 2019. And so remember, wouldn't give me the kids that weekend. I hadn't seen them for 6 weeks. She's blaming me for the kids' behaviour at school. Find out she's gone and completely ignored my mother's request to go to cemetery. I was I was heavily drug affected at the time by prescribed medication that I was popping it the front and centre. I'd also, at that stage, I was already off work because I took some sick leave at work because I wasn't coping.
Yep.
So I was already on sick leave at that stage. So, work knew I was going through a very difficult period in my life. But obviously they didn't know to what degree because I tried to shelter a lot of that. I didn't disclose to them how bad it actually was in terms of my mental health, right? But I was on sick leave. So all of a sudden, I remember that conversation. I was just having bad thoughts again and going, what am I going to do? And I'd been messaging my partner at that stage, which is now the ex, and Will said, she goes, come down, have a chat with me. Come down to my place. And, oh, yeah, So anyway, I thought, okay, I'll do that. So I went down to her place and I got down there and she was already half pissed when I got down there. I walked in and there's half a bottle of wine already drank and things like that. I could already tell she was quite tipsy, you know what I mean? So anyway, she said, what the hell happened, blah, blah, blah. So we get up and, like we're having a conversation about what's going on because she could tell by me on the phone earlier that I was really in a bad way, you know what I mean? So I was down there and, as I said, look, I heavily under medication. So getting down there, we're having conversation, she's drinking, whatever else. And I said, look, I was having a couple of beers at that stage. She says to me, look, because I said, I'm going to go. I said, I'm going to stay. I'm going to go. Things are getting quite heated with us here because it went from a conversation about, about what's been happening with me to back towards our relationship. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There was kind of the relation where we currently were at, as well as I was more down there for the fact of what's going on with my kids and not seeing the children because I was beside myself, right, my mental health space. And she said, no, you're not getting in the car. You've had too much to drink. You can stay here for the night. I said, too much to drink? Like 3 or 4 beers, whatever I've had over a space of a time. There's no way in the world I'd had that much, right? She goes, no, you can stay here. So anyhow, long story short, we just continued to have a chat and whatever else. And all of a sudden I could see how pissed, like drunk she was getting, right? So I said to her, no, that's it, enough. So I tried to help her inside, as you do, because she was quite unsteady on her feet. So I tried to help her inside and get her up to bed because she had a bad back. So and she was living in a 2-story house. So I tried to get her upstairs, take her, and then I was going to just sleep on the lounge, right? So get inside, put the glass on the kitchen bench and headed towards the lounge room. And what are you doing? The room's upstairs. I'm not going there. No. Didn't say anything to me. Come on. Got to get you upstairs. Anyway, all of a sudden, turns around and goes, fuck off. Fuck, bang. Just slaps me clean across, right? Clean across the face. You know what I mean? And had a massive, which I ended up seeing, ended up having a massive handprint, right? Shouldn't have reacted. I was kind of, don't fucking hit me, and kind of just jabbed out. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, I got her on the bridge of the nose. You know what I mean? That was the end of it. Get out of me fucking house, you fucking dog, you fucking this and that. Threw me wallet, threw me keys out and wallet out the front lawn and told me to fuck off. So, I shouldn't have done what I did. I take responsibility,
of course,
full responsibility for my reaction, right? I shouldn't have done it. And that was bad. Like, it was bad from my part because I have never, ever, till that day, touched a female in my life, ever. And I felt like the lowest piece of shit you could imagine. And so I was just mortified with my behaviour, what I did, you know what I mean? Because I didn't mean it. It was a reaction to being struck. I was, I don't know what else to say. I was in a hell of a headspace, wasn't thinking rationally, and I just reacted out. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, told me to get out, so I left. And where, again, I made a really, really poor judgment and a really poor error was then after that, I used to always keep some spare medication in my glove box in my car. If I'd ever stayed out anywhere and I forgot some tablets. I had some, right?
Yep.
So stupid me then gets in my car because I'm absolutely redlining about what's just transpired. I'm angry. I'm emotional. I couldn't explain to you. I had all thoughts, you know. Just popped whatever I had in my glove box, which is probably about another dozen tablets, right? So anyhow, I'm getting there and I'm livid and what's going on, and where my ex-wife lives from where my ex-partner lived was probably 10 minutes away. So I don't know what came over me, Jared, but it was said to me, nah, why are you down here? You need to sort out getting those kids because you need those kids, you'll get those kids tomorrow, right? You can't not, something saying to me, you can't not have them again. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I thought I'd go over there and try and have a conversation, which in hindsight was never going to end well in the headspace I was clearly in, right? And I went over there and knocking on the door and coming, you know, and she comes out, who is it? I said, it's me, you know, it's Peter. Fuck, what do you want? And this, called me everything. I was saying, fuck off, you CUNT and this, that, and called me everything, right? She just absolutely unloaded. What are you doing here? Look, I'm here. Enough shit's happened. I just want to have my kids tomorrow. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to sort out having my kids, right? No. Hell bent. Get the fuck off. Not speaking to you. No. I said, for Christ's sake, will you be an adult about it and talk to me about it? I want to resolve this issue. I just want my kids tomorrow. I'm not taking them tonight, right? I wasn't in a state to take them tonight anyway.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I was due to have them tomorrow. Just please let me pick them up tomorrow, right? Anyway, so she's yelling at me, abusing me. I said, can you open the door a bit so I can see you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, for Christ's sake, right? So the smart ass opens the door like about that much, right? Are you serious? You know what I mean? So we're having a conversation and she's just called me everything under the sun. I know I should have, in hindsight, well, one, I shouldn't have gone there in the state I was in, but certainly at that point, I should have got in the car and fucked off.
Yep.
Right? Because it was getting heated,
Yep.
very heated, and I didn't. So she's giving it to me, I'm giving it back to her, and it's getting heated. So eventually she opens the door, as I said that much, Jared. And I said, oh, Christ, can you just open the door? I don't want to come in. I'll talk to you at the door, right? Just talk to me so I can see your face instead of being a smartass, right? So all of a sudden I go and I just kind of wanted to push the door open a little bit more so I could talk to her face, right?
Yep.
She's instantly closed the door. My hand's jammed in between the door and
The frame.
the frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. So got no knuckle.
Well.
Broke my hand in the door. Instantly, I felt this crack straight away, you know, and it was stuck in the door. And she was pushing hard against it, you know what I mean? So there was no way in the world I was going to get my hand out unless I either pushed it open or she let go of the other side, right? Because it was jammed in the door. I was obviously yelled out to her, my hand's in the door, can you open it? No, it wouldn't. So I've had to shoulder charge the door to get my hand out.
Your hand.
As a result of that, with the momentum, I've ended up
going through that.
Well, the door swung open and I've ended up inside the house. Then
now you're in trouble for that.
Massive dramas, right? So massive dramas have happened, right? And then she hit and kicked me and I've retaliated and it's fucking shit fight, right? Yeah. So, yeah. And then all hell broke loose, you know. I mean, you got broken glass, fucking windows being broken, you know, broken door. I've lost my shit and broke the mirror of a car, and it's just a shit fight, right? It was just an absolute shit fight. So it's very daisy, that kind of stuff, because of still to this day, I am all over the shop with what happened. So it's like I remember only bits and pieces of it. Do you know what I mean? So, so I was just in an absolute rage that night. I don't know what came over me, right? And I take full responsibility for my actions and behaviour. Yeah. I was appalled, you know. I still to this day, it was completely out of character for me, and I don't know what else I can say apart from sorry,
you just own it. Yeah, take
I own it.
accountability,
I
yeah.
own it, and shit just went. What got worse and worse and worse. I ended up at bloody the ex-brother-in-law's house. On my way home that night apparently. So I don't even know how I got
You got
there
home,
in the
yeah.
car. I was in the car.
Mm.
I don't even know how I could manage to drive my vehicle in the state I was in, and I ended up at the front of the ex-brother's place, and where the cops got me, at the front of the ex-brother's place, which was 45-minute drive away.
Shit.
Yeah, 45-minute drive away,
drive.
because that was close to where I was living. Like I was living probably 15 minutes from there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a big blur,
Yeah.
like from that. So in a nutshell, I ended up getting the cops. The cops were waiting there. They got me there. I got charged with some pretty serious offences. And was at that stage I was suspended from work as a result. And those charges then went through the criminal justice system, and it spent about 12 months going through backwards and forwards, and coming back to it. But right, it was already bad enough with what was going on, Jared, and I knew I was in the wrong. I knew I was in the wrong. I knew, despite not being clear-headed, despite not knowing exactly what was going on, I could only go on what I was reading of police statements and things like that. I had to wear it. I had to own it, which I did. But I was also aware enough at that time that certain things that were said in the statement initially to the police from the ex-wife did not happen, right? Well, over time, when I had to get a solicitor and a barrister involved, my ex-wife, a statement changed not once,
Twice.
not twice,
3 times.
not 3 times,
4 times.
not 4 times, but 5. 5 times, because we had what they call a case conference, right, with the DPP. And we went back and forwards with my barrister and solicitor and the DPP. And it went backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. Because initially I got accused that I broke in. No, I didn't. The method how I got in changed from breaking the lock, to grabbing the keys, to doing this. I said, no, go for it. Get my DNA. Go get my DNA off whatever you're saying I've touched, get it. Couldn't, because I never did that. I knew I was coherent enough to remember I didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew that I didn't do that. So the story changed 5 times. And eventually we had an agreement of facts, right, which I just had to, As my barrister said to me all along, is that because I was disputing how I even ended up in there, I said, what do you want me to do? My hand's broken in there. I get it. I shouldn't have been in the first place, but I was, right? Can't take that away. But my hand's broken in the door, got to get my hand out. Me ending up in the house was a result of me shoving the door open to get my hand out.
Yeah.
Not deliberately trying to get into the house, if that
Not
makes
with
sense.
intent, yeah.
He said, I get you, but technicality, you're going to go. Because as soon as you cross, you're not welcomed into the house. As soon as your toes cross that, door entryway, you're gone. So in a nutshell, I just pleaded guilty, right? All offences. I pled guilty. So they initially changed and withdrew a couple of the offences. They modified the change, and then I pled guilty to all of them after that, right? So I was on bail for 11 months, nearly 12 months. So 27th of November 2020, went to court, district court, and got sentenced. And this is the part you're going to love this one, is that so the ex-wife, during the bail period, right, for the bulk of the bail period, I wasn't able to see my kids at all because the ex-wife said, no, he's too violent and his mental health isn't stable, he's not seeing the kids.
Yep.
So eventually we're still going through family court. So going through family court, eventually the only way that she would agree to give me any time with the children was supervised contact.
Yeah.
Supervised contact. So then I now feel not only is it bad enough what I'm going through, I then, because the kids were begging to see me, begging to see their father, right? Likewise I was. So then not only am I going through the court case and then family court, like criminal matter in the family court, I'm then battling the issue of trying to see the children. I then am treated like a sex offender, a child sex offender, because I've got to have supervised with my contact with my kids, despite me never, ever, ever in any way, shape or form doing anything wrong to my children.
Yeah, I've been in supervised contact since.
Yeah. So I eventually saw the kids on supervised contact and that a few times. And then it was only on probably got to the back end right near before I went to court to get sentenced. So I saw the children twice, unsupervised, right, which was right at the back end. It was like the start of November, yeah. Now I remember seeing that I had the last time I saw the kids on that time was the night before I went to court. So it would have been the 26th of November, and the children could see like we had such good time together, you know. It was. And they could see how, I guess, emotional I was. And they said, "Don't worry, Dad, you know, don't worry. Everything's going to be fine." I said, "No, it's not." They said, "Yeah, it will." They said, "Mum's promised us." I said, "Sorry?" They said, "Mum's told us, looked us in the eyes and promised us she's going to go to court tomorrow and she's going to do whatever she can to help you stay out of getting locked up, if that's what's going to happen, right? She doesn't want you to get locked up. She doesn't want you. She can see you've changed, you know, what you've done, you know, you've made attempts in that." I didn't buy it. But anyway, you know, kids are telling you. So that's what she told the kids. Absolutely promised them that she would do that. So the next day comes up, go to court. So she gets up and she reads a victim impact statement. I don't know if you've heard of them before, but it's so victim impact statement. So it's their victims get an opportunity for them to say whatever they like, right? So she could get up and say whatever she liked in this courtroom. It could not be challenged by myself or my legal team, right? So it doesn't matter if it's unfactual, factual, the whole lot.
Say whatever.
Yep, complete bullshit. She got up there and absolutely smashed me from pillar to post. The lies that came out of that, like the situation's already bad enough, completely bad enough as it was, right?
Were the kids in court?
No, they didn't. No, she wouldn't let them come.
Yeah.
Brainwash them. Yeah, and I'm glad they didn't, right? Because it's not a place for the children to be, right? But yes, she deliberately kept them away, and as I said, I am happy that they didn't come, right? But she got up, and you know, crocodile tears were coming down, and she's got up there and she's reading out and slowly read page after page after page. Now, for starters, I had already seen that, and I knew that it wasn't hers. I was with her long enough to know how she can write in that. So I just knew that wasn't hers, right? Yeah. So anyhow, she absolutely slammed me, said this, that, and whatever else, and you know, how she didn't believe that I had learnt my lesson. It was all contradictory to what she'd already told the children, right? Despite I had apologised countless times for my behaviour. I took ownership. I took responsibility. I said in court, I accept what happened. I did what I did, right? I deserve to be punished. Punish me, right? Yet, as I said, it was already bad enough. She made it a million times worse. So she gets off the way the court was set up. Obviously, the judges at the front, as you know, the witness boxes on the side. The dock where I was positioned was in the middle at the back of the court, and there was a public gallery on the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the dock. My family and support people were on the right-hand side. Her mother and friends were on the left-hand side. So she gets off after reading the victim impact statement. She's walking back towards me.
Right? Smokes at you.
She gets close to me. Exactly, Jared. She gets close to me and goes, with a big fucking smile on her face. Like, in other words, fuck you. I've just sunk you. Because every time she was reading, took her for ages to read that document. And every time, you know, she would pause and she's getting emotional. The judge looked across at me, just kind of shaking his head. And I remember looking at my now wife. We were together, obviously, just in a relationship at the time. And looking at her, I'm fucking gone here. I'm gone, right? Because I just knew, right? I could sense the vibes in it. This is not going to end well. I just knew I'm in a world of shit, right? So anyhow, you know, just when that happened, it was like a big fuck you. She sits down, you know, my defense barrister and solicitor had attempted to, you know, put our case forward, obviously, but the most pressing part here was that they tried to explain to the judge, first of all, that their client fully accepts his response and his involvement in what he did in the entire situation.
Yeah.
Not minimising it, not justifying it in any way, shape or form. I truly do accept it, right? And I'll own it to the day I die, right? But what they tried to do is provide some insight into the history to try and let the judge context understand how things had got to the point they'd got to. You know, so you've got a bit more understanding about it. The judge absolutely blatantly said, I am not going to listen to any victim blaming here whatsoever. Stop it. Enough. I'm not hearing it to my barrister, he said, despite a number of times saying, we're not trying to blame the victim. I've just told you my client accepts it. Responsibility. You can acknowledge that. Didn't want a bar of it, right? Looks at me and he says, Mr. Dane, you will be going to jail this afternoon. You will be going. My jaw just dropped, right? I didn't know what to do. I was sickened. And he said, in the position you were in, i.e. referring to my background, you should have known better. Yeah, I accept that. I accept that, Jared. I should have known better, but I'm still human. I fucking made a mistake. Biggest mistake of my life I made back on the 5th of December, 2019. And I'll wear what I did, should never have done it, right? My reaction to what unfolded got me into the position I was at, and I'm at, So he said, you should have known better. You were in a position of trust and so on. I'm going to make an example out of you. We said, I'm going to make an example out of you. So despite, hearing all the submissions and all that kind of stuff and what have you, he just then started, no adjournment, started reading off a document, this judgment about, summarising the case and what I was going to be sentenced to. He reads straight off this document. And so he hadn't taken, so obviously after the submissions were taken by the female prosecutor and then my barrister, instead of having, what generally happens is they have time to consider both sides of the argument and then they'll prepare their judgment. You know what I mean? So whether that's on the same day or whether that's at a different day and they adjourn it, so be it. But it gives them an opportunity to think about it.
He didn't think.
Well, he already had it pre-written because he didn't even leave the bench, right? So as far as his mum was already made up, regardless what was said.
It's funny you say that. Well, I shouldn't say funny. I'll pause there real quick. I got a mate of mine. He's a criminal lawyer, DV. He was representing a father, and he just said, he goes, this was a clear-cut case. Like, it was a clear win for the father. Because we went in there, the judge, he said the judge had already made up her mind before the case was even heard.
Yep.
But so that's what's reminded me. Sorry, mate.
No, you're right, Jared, and that's the thing. So the moral where I'm going with this is that the fact that there was a document that was pre-written, that you've just heard the prosecution case, our case, to put that into context and to be able to have time to think about that. How can you then read off a document that's already done without going off the bench and having time to prepare something? It's clearly pre-done. So anyway, I got absolutely smashed. So I got sentenced to, now this is a person I had no priors, a person of excellent character, obviously working in the criminal justice system, law enforcement for 19 years. You know what I mean? Yep. I made one hell of a bad mistake and bad judgment that night. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. I accepted my responsibility. I still to this day accept my responsibility in full. And I got sentenced to 3 years, 3 months, head sentence with 1 year, 10 months inside, full time. So got obviously taken downstairs, the court, and then the next 22 months, so best part of 2 years, was an absolute living hell that I endured the entire way. I mean, you know, being incarcerated for no one is a good situation. No one in their right mind would say it is, because it's horrendous. And anyone who's been in there knows exactly what I'm talking about. But when you've got someone in there with a background like mine, you have a lot of drama. And I was in fights and fights and fights.
Did they have to put you in protection?
I was just at times, yeah.
Yeah.
It was in, yeah, it was. I was in protection centres and things like that, but I still had dramas.
Yeah.
Still had dramas, because it's not, you know, you're
Because
still mingling.
some people think protection is just for pedos, but it's like famous people, cops, you know, it depends on your background.
I got moved around to a number of centres and I had dramas in nearly all of them. I was recognised by, you know, other inmates that I'd
dealt with in the past.
In the past, I knew staff left, right, and centre at all these different centres, and so I was recognised widely throughout the system. And yeah, you know, it was horrendous, horrendous experience. And it's done some significant damage to you know, it's not a place you go in and it's supposed to make you better. It's you're in there for punishment. It doesn't make you better. You know, if I'm mentally, I'm in a way worse situation than what I was before I went in. But you know what? At the end of the day, I was, you know, I can't change the decision. I had to own what I did, and I do. And that's one thing that I really wanted to get across too, is that make it crystal clear that, you know, I don't minimise or justify what happened any bit whatsoever. You know, it's one of those things, you know. And I never thought I would be in the situation that I was in. I was doing everything to avoid going down that road, you know. But as you know, I've had that much psychiatrists and psychologists tell me the whole way through, you know, Jared, that I've got to stop being so hard on myself, and that, you know, everyone's got a breaking point. And they know that's not my character, and that I was just pushed beyond my limits in the headspace I was in the drug-affected state that I was in. You weren't... do you know what I mean? You weren't to make a proper judgment, proper, you know,
I know
thought processes. You weren't in that. So, but look, I've had, like, even in there, you know, like it was just horrendous.
Yeah, I bet,
you know,
man.
Like tough time.
You're still standing here today, though, bro.
Mate, I don't know how. I really don't. You know, I've come out the other side, and I've had to rebuild my life completely from the ground up. You know, I was literally nearly killed inside. You know, very, very close to being killed inside. I was, you know, I was attacked. You know, I had a number of other inmates tried to gang up on me. You know, not once did I have any drama for the nature I was in there for. I mean, sadly these days, I mean, every second person's inside is in there with, you know, domestic violence related stuff. So it was, my dramas was all to do with my previous employment background. That's what my drama was. Treated exactly the same as what a police officer would be inside. You know, anyone that's got authority like that. Do you know what I mean? So your time's certainly more onerous in there, and it's a very difficult situation to do. And but I fought hard. and I did what I needed to do to survive, and that's what I did, and I survived to get to the other end. And a big driving force of that was my children at the other end, and my now wife.
So she was waiting for you.
She knows everything. She was a very, very supportive influence on me, and probably a lifesaver. Well, actually, not probably. She is. She is a lifesaver. Her and her family have been nothing but supportive of me through the entire dealings of it all. There's nothing that they don't know. They know everything. And they've just supported me the whole way through because they say, they can see, they know that I'm not that person. Yeah. They know that, what happened was completely, entirely out of character and such an isolated incident, but I'm still, battling the psychological trauma and damage that's happened coming out of that, and I probably will for the rest of my life. But I've tried to, accept what's happened because I know I can't change it. I've got a good job. I'm still working in senior management positions, all but not within law enforcement. Yeah. I'm well and truly out of there. And I've got such a strong relationship with my 3 children.
That's yours, but that's good.
Yeah, my 3 children. But still to this day, Jared, I'm still copying grief from my ex-wife.
Just won't let up.
She is just relentless. I have no contact with the ex-partner. We haven't had any contact since before I went in custody. But my ex-wife, I obviously still have to because I've got children with her. And still to this day, do I cop grief? It still has not ended. So you look at it this year, we're coming up to December this year with 10 years since we separated.
Wow. Still
10 years since we separated.
Still hasn't let up.
No, 7 years since the incident took place in December 2019. Well, as I said, coming up 7 years, right? And it is still such a toxic situation that just like, still tries to get money, still argues with money. I've only got one I'm paying child support for now. She's 17. She's 18 next year. So there's another 8 months to go of that. But there's still the issues in terms of poisoning the children, trying to manipulate the children into thinking, how bad I am and all this kind of stuff. And it's, as I said, 2 of them are young adults now, it's just, that's like, I said, it's, what, I won't say it's funny, but what a number of correctional officers actually said to me when I was inside. They said, you know what, when you get out, Peter, you should write a book. They said, because, I know our podcast has a limited time frame, and there's so much that, I've had to skim over. You've got to skim over things, and I've gone backwards and forwards with things, and but there is that much that's happened, and as I said to you, when we first started speaking, I've gone from what I believe the pinnacle of life. I was such a good job. I was doing well with life, upholding the law, advocate out there, such a positive influence on other people, leading by example, you know what I mean, and on how you would expect someone to behave, you know what I mean, like a real role model. And that completely got flipped on its head, right, by my actions. And, living the life that I had to live inside, where you're just on edge, hyper vigilant every single day, I wasn't able to see. So my kids they begged their mother to come and see me when I was inside. She would not let them come and see me. She refused. Yet she told the children that it was the jail that would not approve them to come and see me. Yet it was her. Because I spoke to the jail saying, no, it's not us. We don't care. She's just got to sign the form to let them come and see you. She refused to, right? So it's just this brainwashing. It's just this lies, this constant. It's when's it going to end? Probably never will, right? But it's just been relentless, you know. And I try now, like, I guess I savor every minute of freedom and appreciate in life, and you know that I'm still here, I'm still in one piece, very broken, but still in one piece. You know, I've got the children, I've got a very good relationship with the kids. You know, like our relationship is very strong, and I think the older they're getting,
the more they
realise that, you know, it's Jesus, right? There's more to this, way more to this, you know, than what's actually taken place.
Mate, it's a heavy story. It's a hectic story. Mate, you lasted longer than I did in family court, you know, so hats off to you, mate. You're still here. What didn't break you makes you stronger, so... Mate, look, I might have to move on to these conclusion questions. But before we do, I know there's not enough hours in the day. Do we miss anything that we want to add in there?
Nah, look, I mean, like you said, you know, I mean, there's so much to discuss in such
7 years in court. Yeah, we're not going to get through it all.
It's just such a long period, you know, when you've got to skim over it, and it's just tough. So I just always say to people, you know, there's a lot of people going through some bad shit.
Yeah,
a lot of people out there, you know, and I can certainly relate to those people. And you know, all I say is there's light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to
day by day.
You just got to hang in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Got to hang in there.
Well, mate, I've got some conclusion questions here, if you don't mind me asking. The first one is, any advice for fathers? Knowing what you know now, would you have changed anything during the court process?
Yeah, well, for starters, what I know now is it's not worth spending the money. And it's a shame to be able to say that, because your kids are priceless, right? Your kids are priceless. But doesn't matter how much money you invest, the system's a system. The system's got its mind already made up. And it doesn't matter how good your defence counsels are, they can't change the law. And that's the bottom line. So I wouldn't have, if I had my time over again and I had to have gone through it.
Self-rep.
I would have represented, and I would have, you know, it is what it is. Yeah. That's that mentality, because you can't change it. Yeah. As wrong as it is, it's you know better off 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years down the track, except $250,000 or more.
That's right.
And lost money.
Yeah.
When yet that money should go on for the kids.
I agree, mate. Mate, second one, how do we change the system?
Abolish it. I mean,
mate, I agree. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that, you know.
Look, the thing is, all I can say is to anyone that's listening is that, and I know it's certainly not always possible, because I'm in that same boat, is that you've just got to try your best, your very, very best at all, to remain calm and try and sort it out at a local level, like with your partner or ex-wife or whoever it might be. And that's to try and get a resolution, you know, with a counsel or what, because the only benefits out of this are solicitors.
Yeah, only the lawyers win.
The only lawyers win. No one else wins out of this, and that's their job. That's not taking anything away from them. That's their job. But, you know, the money you have to spend and the financial stress.
That's right.
It should go to the children.
That's right. Mate, I was going to say funny one, but I've had someone else, same position as you, he got put away 5 times in there. But third question is, you're on death row. The guard comes and asks you what you want for your final meal, drink, and dessert.
You're on death row. The final meal.
I've had a lot of people lately say they don't have sweet tooth, so I don't know what's going on. A lot of people.
I'd stick with my favourite and go the caramel slice.
Mine's sticky date pudding.
Yeah, that as well, either or.
What about a hot meal, and what do you wash it down with?
Hot meal, well, I love a pizza, good Italian pizza. So I'd have to say that, and wash it down. Oh, look, the old trusty Coke Zero, Pepsi Max.
I'm a Pepsi Max boy, yeah.
Either or.
On tap. I like it on tap. Mate, if you were in a room with every single person you'd met or interacted with on this journey, who was the first person you'd be drawn to and why?
On this journey. My wife.
Yeah, nice.
My wife. My wife would be the one, without a doubt. I mean, you know, just look to Jared, to stick through somebody that when I first met her, I was on bail, right? And I, not knowing what the outcome was going to be, not knowing whether I was going to get an order, a court community-based order, whether I was going to be locked up or whatever happens, you know what I mean? And to stick by me, I can't thank her enough for that, you know, and to support me through the entire duration that I spent inside. That's a special person.
Yeah, she
and,
is.
I owe a lot. I owe my life to her, and as I said, to her family and her kids and everyone. It was because, I mean, they treat me like their own. Do you know what I mean?
Shout out to your wife, mate.
Thank you.
Well done. Mate, two more. What strategies or tips helped during the process that you could recommend to any listeners?
Strategies. Rely on yourself. You've got no one else when you get in tough times and you know your back's against the wall, and you know you're isolated in that you've only got your own mind to think. You've just got to.
Don't look for that temporary band-aid.
You've just got to stay, as hard as it is you need to try it. You need to find the positive and the good in something, and just try. And like I did it, and if I can do it, I think anyone can do it.
Yeah.
I know, like, my family would disagree. They would say that, you know, I'm one of the strongest people they've ever met. I don't see it that way, but, you know, thank you for that. But it's just, you know, you need to just try, like, you know, and look for the smallest positive, smallest light in anything in the darkest days, you know, but talk to somebody. You know, one thing I can't emphasize enough is that it ain't weak to speak.
Yep.
And, you know, there's people out there that'll pick up the phone, that'll just hear you out and let you just unleash and vent and empty the tank. And that can make a world of difference, because when we bottle things up, and I certainly know, and we get ourselves into such a bad headspace, we make irrational decisions. And I'm a prime example of that, of making horrendous decisions when I've allowed myself to get to a bad headspace.
Yeah. Well said, mate. Last one. Any message for your children?
I love them. And
Take your time, brother. It's been a journey.
They've been my saviour. And I might not be here for the long time, but for the time I'm here, I'll do everything I possibly can to be the best man, father, husband, person I can be, to make sure that I never, ever go back to being that person that I was, and that I'll give them the best life that I possibly can.
Nice, mate. Mate,
I've got something else I just want to add.
Yeah, mate, this
Jared,
is your time, brother.
Just want to say that thank you very much to yourself. You know, you're an inspiration to so many people with what you do. And look, you know, I know myself. I've felt, up until now, I felt I've had no voice. And you've given me that voice by inviting me to come along and share my story, and just feel so many times that we're not heard. I think blokes feel that we're not heard. We can get up in courtrooms, we can do anything, but you just don't feel heard. And by able to relate to someone like you, who's gone through your own journey and created the Broken Fathers podcast. But what it does, it means more than you probably can imagine, you know, just listening and things like that. But so many people can relate to what I guess all your guests come on and say at various parts. And it's been, I can only speak from my own personal experience. It's been a hell of a ride, one that I'd never wish on my worst enemy. Somehow I got through it. And I guess I just want to, moving forward, I know my mother would always say to me, she always used to say, good or bad, I was a good boy, right? Which clearly, that's not the case. But I want to be there for my children and for my wife, my family and her family, and just do the best I can. And whatever time we've got left on this planet is to give 100% and just be a good person.
Yep. Mate, I hope that, when you go back today, I feel confident it will. It's weight off your shoulders and to feel like it's a chapter that you can close because you've told your story in detail. Because you probably get sick. People ask you about, what happened? You get sick of repeating. I know for me, I get sick of repeating. People ask me about me. I said, you know what? If you want to know, if you're that interested, episode 1, I've told my story. There it is, And for me, I can just sort of put it to bed, and hopefully it's a sort of a release of trauma in a way, and it's a weight off your shoulders. You can just bury it, move forward. There, it's done. But
what I struggle with, what I still struggle with, and I'm getting better at it, is that your true friends never leave you.
Yeah.
So I'll call them associates, but it hurt at the start when all this went down because I lost so many people.
Yeah.
Because they believed what they heard or they believed what they read. The only ones who know the truth are the ones that were present.
Yeah.
And I've never shied away from the fact that I've made errors, and I made big errors, right? And I've got to live with that. I've learnt from that, and you live and learn, don't you?
That's right.
But it hurt, and it still does that I've lost so many people who I thought were good mates, and they've just turned their back on me for whatever reason. And but I used to want to explain and get it out there, Jared. Now I'm like what you just said. You know what? You believe what you want to believe, right?
Yeah.
You want to know the truth, but you come and ask me.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
that's right. Well, mate, on behalf of the Broken Fathers podcast, I'd like to thank you and your wife, because I know she's travelled up here with you today, taking time out of your life, your schedule, spent money out in your pocket flying up here. I appreciate that. My followers appreciate that, and I have no doubt that you've connected with some fathers that when they watch this, you've connected with them and helped them. Because I know every episode does. I get the feedback and they say thank you, and because I can guarantee you there'll be a father watching this that's tried to take their life as well, or they've been put in prison. I can assure you, it's definitely going to connect. So again, thank you for coming in and being vulnerable and open up and telling your story. And I wish you and your wife and your kids nothing but the best for the future moving forward, mate. And I hope the Roosters beat the Doggies.
Thanks, Jared.
Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks
Appreciate
for having me.
mate.
Thank you very much.
All good.